So today we are going to speak with two professionals in the field of property purchasing and taxes in Spain. We have ALINE and ELISENDA, and they are two females that work out of Barcelona, and they are specialists in their field. And we're going to address a topic which has been in the news lately. They've been talking about all the changes, recent protests in Barcelona, Malaga, some of the changes coming to rental properties in Spain. We've seen that there's been a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of interest from not only future owners of properties, rental properties and homeowners in Spain, but also present owners worried about what this and how this is going to affect them, both short-term and long-term rentals. So we're going to begin.
Well, my name is Elisenda. Just like Santi and Angela have introduced me. I'm a Catalan expert in the local market, in the home area. I've been working in sales for more than 20 years in different areas. So I'm very comfortable in doing assessment to clients, to offering the best option for the needs a client has. And in the home area, I love to give a very companion. So I want to be the eyes and for the feeling of a Spanish sensation, the nose of Spain, and to the person who comes from abroad. Mm-hmm. In my personal experience, either from the professional, I've just bought recently an apartment, my first flat, even though
Congratulations.
Yeah, in Barcelona city, and I've lived the amazing experience of doing a full rental in Spain. Wow. So since you've done it too, I know you understand me.
Yes.
And it's been quite an adventure. Now we're settled with my family, everything's great. But that perspective and being a person who's been in the market for the real estate for all my life in Barcelona city, especially. It gives me a perspective that can be helpful from someone who's not Spanish resident or European resident in this case.
And as you guys know, I'm ALINE, and I'm a tax expert from Montreal. I'm a member of the Bar Association, and I'm here today to comment on a few things about taxation. But today, mainly, it's going to be Elisenda's explaining a little bit more about the home market, the vivienda, we say it in Spain. Renting versus buying, and what are the challenges that Canadians can face. She could be a very good person to accompany any Canadian who's trying to settle in Catalonia, in Barcelona, or anywhere else in Spain. She will be providing a lot of insights about it.
Amazing. And we'll put your contact details underneath so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, yes. Great, amazing. Yeah,
sure. Right. So we'll begin. So to the both of you, we'll start off just a quick breakdown. Could you explain to the audience how these new rules are affecting both short-term and long-term rentals?
Yeah, I'm heading up first, ALINE, if you want to add something. I mean, these new laws that are being applied in Spain, I would like to give a little hint of the context, is that even though the protests that you're receiving from abroad may seem a bit bizarre, is that it's not that Spaniards are complaining about the law per se. We're complaining, and I'm in the group because I'm Spanish, okay, even though I don't complain.
Actually, it's as locals, because not only her, me, even as a foreigner, as locals, there's a complaint about the market as locals. And she's going to explain it.
Yeah, because what we see is that the market has been very pressured for the touristic clients or visitors. Okay, just for an example, we have in Spain 48 million residents, and the visitors in Spain in 2023 were 87 million.
Wow.
I'm speaking about tourists,
Yes.
Not like you that you're coming to have at your home and you visit. No, tourists. And in Barcelona, where the difference, the gap is much higher. We're talking that in Barcelona, we're less than 2 million residents, 1.7, and the touristic visitors in 2023 were 26 million.
Wow.
So that's the reason we're having this law. And how affects this the market is that there's being a very low offer on rental that makes a very high demand for rental and makes prices higher. So makes for the local very difficult and hard to obtain a place to live, basically. I mean,
so I'm just gonna just to clarify for the audience, what we're, and correct me if I'm wrong. So what we're talking about is the major complaint is locals that are looking for a long-term affordable housing solution feel a lot of pressure due to higher prices because owners are preferring to go to higher priced short-term.
Exactly.
And it's driving the market, and there's almost no market long-term, or the market that is long-term is extremely pricey due to having compared to somebody who can rent it short-term. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. One thing I want to point out, because I think it helps understand this, is that the short-term rentals in 2022, I don't have the numbers for 2023 because they're not official yet, is that it has grown 56% in Spain.
Wow.
And the long term has reduced at 15%. So that gives you the scale to see what is happening in this market.
Yeah.
This is not something that happens only in Spain. This happens in London, in Rome, in Paris. But for a country who's been usually with low income in comparison with the rest of Europe, this is very affecting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So these changes that you're talking about, are they being implemented at a provincial or at a national level?
No, they're implemented national level because it affects all. Although I always like to point out that even though it's all national, there are areas that the application of the law will be a bit different.
Yes.
And that's they have a term in the law that's very high pressured areas. And I'm giving you some examples. We have Barcelona, we have Madrid, we have Valencia, we have Malaga, we have Balearic Islands, we have San Sebastián, that's a city in North Spain. In País Vasco, in the Basque country, okay, right, very close to France, to Biarritz, okay? Biarritz. My French is it's not as good as English, and it affects a lot. One thing I like to tell to your audience that I know they're very cautious listening to what you're saying is that this happens like this in the pressured areas because as recently they came on the news that a teacher who lives in the Balearic Islands in an island called Ibiza.
Yeah.
You know Ibiza? Okay.
Yes,
No, I think everybody knows.
It's the party.
I know, but I have to put things in context.
For 12 to go to Ibiza.
I've been to Ibiza, wonderful, but not to discos. I was with my family, with my kids. It was an outlet. So this teacher had her official governmental place to work, and she had it in Palma de Mallorca. That's the island right by. So the prices of the rental are so high that she has to take a plane every day. Ibiza, Mallorca, Ibiza. She lives in Ibiza and works in Palma. For a market like Spain, is so bizarre. This is not normal. I mean, for us traveling by car 1 hour, it's like, oh gosh.
It's not like us in Canada, right?
Exactly.
No hours until Ottawa or I don't know, Toronto and I don't know, Windsor or Ontario or something. But here, 1 hour is a lot.
It's like you're
It's
like
a long distance.
Yeah, you're like living in another country.
Yes.
So I mean, it shows that the market is being very pressured. It's doing abnormalities in the Balearic Islands.
Yes.
There are policemen, there are nurses, there are doctors that are living in their cars.
Wow.
So that's the reason the law is being implemented, because residents are being very affected.
So let's, I mean, it's a very good picture that you've painted of the situation. It's understandable, like you said. So now we're going to get into the nuts and the bolts of the situation. Yeah. What are they proposed or have they been enacted, the changes to rentals and ownership that would affect homeowners that have houses in Barcelona, Mallorca, any high tourist area? What is the exact change that's going to happen?
Oh, you mean the okay. For example, we have changes that will affect all parties. It will affect property owners, it will affect tenants, and it also affects agencies. I don't mean by this that changes are all bad. It depends on the change and what you're looking for or what you need. These laws, what they want, this new law that will be finally implemented in 2025, it's like giving a better picture of the situation, and for the people who have or want a short-term rental to be easier and to be more defined. Because right now what we have is a situation that in the short term, it's like a bit blurry. Is it short term? Is it long term? I mean, when you're looking for an apartment.
Sorry, short term, how do you define short term versus long term? So maybe just for our audience members, so you can let them know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Short term, it's for any rental that's less than 12 months. Okay. And it has to be something that it's your it's not a place to live, it's a place to stay. But if you want to live, it must be longer than 12 months. For example, you're a student. You are here for, not a Congress, because it has to be more than 32 days or 31. Maybe if I'm saying it,
it's the month period.
It's a month period, but it has to be 32 days, if I'm not mistaken. And it has to be that period, 32 days to 11 months, but not living. You cannot be empadronado.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You cannot be a resident. Yeah. So that's short term. And also it's also visiting tourists, etc. But you can be here like working for less than 11 months. So any high executive, any CEO that's doing the job, that could have a short term. And long term, it's more than 11 months, and it can be up to 5 years if the owner is an individual. Like, for example, I had an apartment to rent, or up to 7 years if it's a company. That's the main differences. Of course, there are specifications. For example, for the short term, you can set up different, I forgot about the word, but you can do some acuerdos.
Agreements.
Agreements.
The parties can agree together.
Yeah, can agree some things. But on the long term, it's determined by the law. They cannot move away from that. On the long term, for example, the landlord has to pay all of the management fees, all of the fees has to be paid by the landlord.
Expenditures related to the vivienda. Whenever, for example, you need to publish it, you need to speak with the agency. This in reality should have been to the landlord on a long term.
Yeah, and what happened before is that, since now, is that landlords didn't want to pay that. So that is helping the future tenants, because they are obliged to pay that.
The landlord, just to just recap, on a long term going forward, the property owner, the landlord renting out in a long term is now responsible to pay. Are we talking condominium fees? Are we talking any type of administrative fees that come associated with that property, where it used to be offloaded to the renter? The landlord would charge the renter the condominium fees, but we're not talking about utilities. We're not talking property taxes, annual property taxes. Will that be responsibility of the landlord or the tenant?
Yeah, the landlord.
Okay.
Yeah, the landlord. Yeah, that should have been like that always. But the law has to put things in a box because, and let me be a bit different, because Spanish are different. I mean, we do things that are not like Canadians or people from the States or people from the UK or French. Yeah. We're more like Italians and Greece. That's true. But but the law, since we're in Europe, has to be unified. So that's really being a helpful hint to make things more correct. And no one can step out of the box and try to do things different.
So now I can ask you a question. When it comes to long term, we don't plan on doing any long term, but for the people that are doing long term out there, how is the government, how are the authorities going to be able to, let's say, for example, that I charge you, I say that the rental is 400 euros a month. Okay. What kind of method are they going to be able to know that now instead of 400, I'm going to charge you 450. I am now including all the administrative fees and all that in the rental. What kind of checks and balances? How are they going to know whether
if I may say, and I'm gonna give you a very practical answer because I go through it myself. I'm ELISENDA they bought a house. I'm an inquilino. I'm renting my apartment, and usually what they do is just include it within the price. The problem that we have, for example, in Barcelona and some areas in Spain, is that they could be overpriced, but there's nothing, we cannot do much about it, right? So for example, a renting, you can have a renting of, usually should be 1,200 for an apartment, and the landlord will add 100 euros a month. You wouldn't know it, the government will not know it, but then the landlord will be taking its part of it, and that could happen. So there's the controls that are being done are there whenever you do a denuncia. So when you go, then this is why I said to Alessandra, I can answer, because when there are denuncias, then you can prove your point. You can go to the la ciudad jurídica, where you can ask for the administrative tribunal there. You can ask for the expenses that they made you pay. Now, this being said, utilities, gas, everything you use is never included. Common areas should be, for example, services for the
building?
No, basura.
The trash.
For the trash. Sorry, the city services. These should be included. Now, there are some times when it's on a short term, because I have a friend who had gone through it very, very recently. They made him pay it. Okay, but it becomes an agreement at the end of the day on a short-term thing. Just like Elisenda said, I agree or I don't agree, and I know I'm staying there for a short period of time, and then I'm leaving, and then I will find out my way. Okay, but on long terms, this should be usually paid by the landlord, and it's very important that people who are seeing us, that they make sure that these clauses are included in the contract, or at least they are clear, because a lot of times they might not do it.
Okay, which is understandable. So somebody who's doing a long term, in theory, they are now the owner, the landlord is responsible for paying those fees. The only way that I could see a government being able to, in any which way, regulate this would be to have, are there going to be any price caps enforced by cities? Are cities going to now say, all right, you live in this part of Barcelona, the average rent is $1,400 a month, you cannot rent your apartment for higher than. Are they going to enact price caps for long-term rentals and short-term rentals?
Shall I go?
Yes, please.
Not actually that. No, the limit. There will be limits, of course. Well, thank God. Let's say it like that. There are going to be limits, but they're going to be differenced by what the government says tensioned areas. That, for example, the cities I mentioned, like Barcelona, okay, and in 2025, the price of the rent cannot be higher than 3% in those areas.
Yeah.
The city that wants to declare the area like that has to present like a report to the central authorities in Madrid, explaining it has this, and it's very long conditions, but it can be done by 2025. On the contrary, on the places that are not high tensioned areas or they haven't been declared like that, the owner can increase the rental price by more than the IPC, the index price. That's more than the 3%.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So there's a lot of, like here in North America, there's a lot of cities that do incorporate rental cap increases. Once again, I'm trying to direct this to people who are listening to this and may have a rental property presently, or they may be buying one. If I have a rental right now in Barcelona, I've been long-term renting for 2 years. I've had no increase cap, no limit. Does that limit now affect my rental property? I cannot increase that person's rent.
This goes with the grandfathered rule, Santi, because then this is where the grandfathered rule will play. Because if your contract is done before the entry into force of the law, you still can do with the old mechanisms.
Yeah.
But if then it's new contract after the new law, then you're gonna have to follow. The thing is, I think here we have to be really careful about what is explain it as short-term, long-term, because the rights are different as well with the new laws. So let's take my example. I'm a person who had a contract in 2021. So I am grandfathered. My landlords cannot do anything. They have the increase should be according, because I'm a long-term, should be according to the index price. They are not allowed to increase it more. Now, if they put the market, if they take the apartment and put it on the market, and they put it short term, then they're going to definitely go with whatever she's saying. So it is in the interest today of a lot of people putting it on short term to kind of cap and play with that margin. Okay, but despite all this, there's still going to be like kind of rules as she explained it before about the short and long term. We really need to be careful which side are we taking and where the contract entered into force. If the contract entered into force in 2022, it's grandfathered.
Okay. So just to recap, and I'm going to say the changes long term as far as capping rental increases in new contracts going forward after 2025. It's something very similar we have here in North America in some of the major cities. Very similar. Short term. What changes are coming in 2025 for short term?
They came already into force right now. They are already applying them. And that's why maybe a lot of your viewers will see, I don't know, Elisenda, about the idealista. Yeah. She can probably explain it better. We see a lot of 11 months. Do you want to explain?
No, you can start.
Yeah, we see a lot right now. A lot of people saying about idealista. If you look at idealista, you will see a lot of people putting 11 months and less. 11 months and less. That's because from the law's perspective, it gives the landlord a little bit more flexibility on what he wants. It's more pro. The thing is, in 2025. These changes are going to come into force, and then just like she explained, it's going to be capped a bit. There's not much they can do anymore, and that's these all need changes. It's because of the 11-month period of time where they can play with it. I think it's important to just kind of make this difference. from contract perspective.
Yeah, because the thing is that the rentability on those high pressured areas is very high right now, and that's what pushing the locals outside of the cities or pressured areas. I mean, all of an island like Mallorca.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're pushing out, the locals. So when you're looking for rentals in Barcelona, it's like hectic. I mean, salary in Barcelona for, and I'm not speaking about executive position. I'm speaking like
ordinary
class. It would be like 1,500 euros approx, and the rentals are 1.8, 1.9.
Yeah, and you know what? And you have a lot of people that are, we get it from our side. We see a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, they're going to ruin the rental market." But you have to understand that I'm not going to pick sides. But the reality is, one thing that is really good about Spain is the low cost of living.
Of course.
People love Spain because it's about, well, for us, it's about 30% cheaper than living in Canada.
Yeah.
If we continue at this pace without addressing some of these issues, that low cost of living is not going to be very low in a couple of decades. So something does have to be addressed. And what I think we wanted to do with this interview was, what's changing? Do people have to now, people are going to panic and sell their property in Spain, say, "Oh my God, the government's taking over everything. We can't make a profit." And I think what we want to do with this interview is explain some of the changes and why they're doing it. If people are still looking at buying property,
is there still value?
Is there
a holiday home?
I'll take it from
Yes,
him.
please,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, I mean, sorry if I sounded maybe a big panic situation. It wasn't my intention. I just wanted.
You don't sound.
I just wanted to make an overall point of view. She's very technical about laws, and she's. For me, lawyers are always very specific and very concrete, and I'm talking from the sales perspective. Yeah. That's different, right? So I just wanted to give a different perspective, okay? And from, even though she's been living here in Spain, she's Spanish. Because she speaks Catalan, she speaks Spanish wonderfully well. I wish I could speak French like her Spanish or her like Catalan, but well, that's another thing. But of course, for what I see is that a person who wants to buy or has a property in Spain, I mean, let's don't panic. I think it's still a good investment in Spain, but you have to understand that I'm speaking from a very high pressured market. Barcelona is one of the most expensive cities in Europe to live.
Yeah.
But Spain is the second country most visited in the world after the United States. So my perspective is like being affected like local, but even having all this overall issue, if your investment, for example, where I saw your wonderful place in Alicante, nearby the beach, I saw it on your video, very nice place. There are places in Spain, 2 stories. I think there were 3 stories.
Yes.
4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms.
2 wonderful bathrooms. One looks like mosaico hidráulico. I saw it.
She's good at what she does.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
She's your eyes to visit.
Yeah. And I love your terrace where you were putting your clothes, by the way. Yeah, I do that too. It's typical in Spain. You're so
Spanish.
Yeah, we don't use dryers,
No.
but we have. but
Yes.
we like to.
We don't need it.
No, we like to put our clothes on.
Yes.
Well, that's something said, but yeah, an investment in Spain, it's good for foreigners, but I think we have to differentiate, to separate what kind of investment you want. I mean, if you want a stable rentability, I would recommend areas that are not with this high pressure, because they will keep being pressured. Barcelona is very difficult to change. Has been increasing prices in the last 30 years. I mean, I was 18 years old. I'm not going to say my age in public because I'm a lady, but but Barcelona is going to be always expensive. Yeah. Mallorca is going to be expensive. Valencia probably too.
Madrid.
Oh, there are Madrid. Yeah, Madrid, of course. But for example, a town in Alicante, a town in Murcia, a town near Seville, there will not be this high increase, but there will also be touristic places to go. So your rentability will be more stable and will probably be more profitable than buying in Barcelona, because the rentability is less, because it's very hard to buy it.
Exactly.
So it depends on the intentions. If you want to live in Barcelona, and I'm giving you an example with one almost local, almost Spanish, even though she doesn't have the residence yet. She'll have it someday soon. We hope.
The DNI.
But she's not middle-aged. She's younger, but she's a professional, and she's a rental. She's single. So she has some needs that are different than a family with 2 little kids.
Yeah.
It's different from some retired couple. I would not offer them the same.
No.
They're different. I mean,
so
different.
So
the needs are different, and the expectations are different.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of put this in focus, what you're saying is, if you live in a high pressured area, such as, Madrid, Barcelona, maybe some parts of Valencia, some parts of Malaga. If you're looking at an area right now that is a very high pressured market for rentals, short terms, tourists, this is going to affect you. If you're looking at smaller towns like Torrevieja, if you're looking at areas like, wherever, the outsides of Almeria or anything like that.
For example.
Yeah, exactly. This is not an issue. This is not going to be an issue.
Right.
So the only people that really need to pay attention to the changes are the ones that are in high pressured markets. And I just kind of want to put that out to the viewers, because everybody's panicking. Oh my God, I have a house out here or in the campo, and it's going to affect me for my. Relax. This is for the high pressured areas that are dealing with a lot of stress due to the increase in the market and the volume. Correct?
What about the tourist 2029 on?
That's for Barcelona.
Okay.
Yeah. One that's big, because we were speaking before everything, and the mayor in Barcelona has declared recently that by 2028, 10,000 touristic licenses will be eradicated.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Okay.
But by 2029, all will be eradicated.
Wow. So that was good to put on, because we may have people from Barcelona listening to this. So by 2029, they're looking at eradicating all tourist license, which
Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona.
That's what I'm saying. Let's don't panic. It's depending on the areas. But when you're looking from the real estate perspective, for example, I've just bought a house. Not a house, an apartment, a flat. It's the worst investment in my life, because the price I've paid, I won't have the return in many years, because I've paid very much.
Yeah. I was about to say that, because if I bought a flat last year in Barcelona, expecting a good increase over the next 10 years of property value, this could have a very big impact on anybody who bought property like you that has purchased property. They may not be looking at the return in value and increase that they thought they were. That's a very good point to put out there.
But I also want to mention, because in my case, I'm paying mortgage. I have another credit issues having over me. So I've paid a very big reno. I've changed all the apartment. Now it looks wonderful, pretty. But even though that.
It's very Spanish.
Yeah, I'm very Spanish. That's what it is.
Win it.
It's like you want to go to your country.
So the thing that has been amazed me most is because when I bought the apartment, I was like, oh, prices are going high. I bought it on, if I'm not mistaken, July 2023. Now the prices have gone like 30% more for buying an apartment here in Barcelona and prices were crazy on July 2023. I can assure you, I paid for a very high price for an apartment.
So your property value has gone up, you saying from 2023 until now,
like 20, 30% more.
So as your financial advisor, I would tell you to sell it now and move out.
Yeah, but I have to live somewhere.
Sure.
Rental. Going back and forth.
Yeah. But I have to live like I have two teenagers. But no. The investment. Let's go back to the origin of the discussion. The investment in Spain, it's good, but I think we have to be very well assessed on what we need, what we want, and in what period we want to have that expectation, because the market in Spain it's not like, I don't know, like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that was all like flowers everywhere, and it was like
it was easier. Actually,
it was easier, and there were a lot of opportunities. Now the market it's getting closer to the North European market, and especially like cities. It's getting closer to cities like big cities. Like for me, a big city is London, is New York, is San Francisco. Right. Or Paris or Rome. Those are big cities. And in Spain, many cities are getting close to this overall feeling like the big cities in Europe or the rest of the world. And in terms of pressure, the traffic jam, the parking issues. So if you have a home property, or you want to buy a home property anywhere in Spain to have an investment, we would have to look for other places. If you want to live here, like resident, like wonderful ALINE, then we'll have to look for other needs, because if you have kids, maybe you want to be in close to an international school, or you want to have the Spanish feeling, the Spanish kind of life. So in there, I can help you.
Perfect.
I don't mean you because you're an expert, but I can help people.
We're not experts.
I don't know. I think you are. But we can give you an assessment on where would be the best place depending on your needs, because I think it's very different.
For sure.
So before we go on too much here, taxation. Are we looking at a change in the way? Are there going to be new taxes involved in short-term versus long-term taxing for houses, for sales? Have there been any big changes in regards to taxation?
Last year, there was a new law within the whole new changes and the new laws that were presented by the government, and it's actually to counter the pressure on the viviendas, because as she explained it, we locals we don't have places to go. And you know that according to the law, locals, we have to be empadronados when we are foreigners, right? So I cannot, if I take something short term, I can't be empadronada. I have a problem. I'm going against the law. So what the law is saying is that they made changes to help new youth people to buy or to enter the market by renting. And that gives an incentive to the persons who are buying properties and they are renting it, meaning that you are allowed to include in your renta, in your income. Before it was 60% that you had to include it. And it is because according to the law, we had some exemptions, percentage of an exemption on the income coming from renting. Now, with the new law, this exemption became to 50%, but it has to meet a lot of criteria. So your tenant or the person buying has to be between 18 and 35. They have to meet a certain level of salaries. The house has to have a certain level of value. The down payment should be between a bracket and another bracket. And also it has to be in a certain area. And that areas and these functionalities are depending on the Comunidad Autónoma. Okay, so Andalusia will tell you if you go to this part of Sevilla and you paid between this and this threshold, like there's a kind of gap that has to be respected. Well, then it becomes a vivienda that is accepted or is subject to the deductions. The only time where you can include 60% is when you have renovations, and the renovations also have to meet requirements. So my recommendation to whomever who are listening to us, we did have new changes. Yes, there are exemptions over the income that you have to declare, but please speak with your gestor or with whomever who's doing your taxes. Do not do it on yourself, or call the Hacienda to find out, and go to the ayuntamiento, go to the city hall to find out, because to be honest with you, the rules are not the same from a city to another, from a comunidad autónoma to another.
And I have another idea. You know what they can do? They can call you.
Oh, yes, they could call me too. That's true. They can call my team, of course, Juan or Gorka.
Call the two of you. They're set. They don't need anybody else.
Sure. They'll be more than happy to help, of course. There will be no changes on the EV, on the tax, the documentos jurídicos. There are some taxes, but they have not changed on that level on acquisition. Okay, and also when you're renting, you are allowed to have some credits and deductions on renting if you're an inquilino.
Expenses.
I just like in Canada, we do have some credits when you are renting an apartment, and you have like a threshold in between revenues, in between bracket and another bracket. Just like, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's Annex 3 in our return that will calculate it. That's the same. So we do have these also kind of incentives from tax perspective. Just, call me.
Yes.
Call your gestor, whomever it is, and then ask about it. Make sure that you do it properly, though.
What I will have to say is that Spain is an amazing country to live.
We agree.
I've lived in the UK when I was very young. And many years
You're still
ago.
young, Elisenda.
Well, I was very young.
You're all young.
Yeah.
I lived in a boarding school in the UK. I had that experience. Amazing. Wow. I've had an international environment, living in Barcelona and in a high school, American high school, and I've never been able to leave my country. So I invite people who want to live here to understand our mentality and our way of being different, but in a good way. So
Spaniards are very passionate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as you've seen with me, I'm very passionate.
Yes.
Yeah. But if you want to live here or you want to do investments here, I think what we have to do is find a halfway.
Mm-hmm. Happy medium.
Yeah. A way that that it's good for the client,
for sure,
and it's good for the landlord. So
It's also good if you're like us and you're moving to Spain on a pension fixed income. You
Very
don't
good.
want the cost of living in 15 years to increase by 70%.
that's right.
I'm going to go have to move to, I don't know, back to Canada, live up north and eat moose and deer. Like,
Have your own food.
yeah, you know. So everybody's best interest is
That's right.
to
That's
to
right.
But
go.
Santi, in your case, when you guys are going to retirement, you can allow yourself to live in areas like small areas or some pueblos. Where in my case, I'm a high professional. I work. I cannot do that to myself, and I have to be in a city.
Exactly.
I think one of the takeaways from my perspective with what Elisenda said is why are you coming to Spain? What do you want to do? And what are you looking for in your investments, right? At the end of the day, because Barcelona is a city that will always give you a certain turnover. Madrid as well. Those are big cities, just like Paris, just like Rome. The only thing is when you're investing today is not when you invested last year, like her, or when you invested 5-6 years ago, or when you invested when I came. I arrived to Spain on October 2016. We did not have any of this.
No.
The markets were really, really good. The prices were stable. Taxes were okay from that perspective. Cost of living was good. And we did not have the same pressure that we have today on the market from tourist perspective as well. I don't know, post-COVID, something happened. We don't know what it is.
Well, that's I'll tell you something.
Other episode.
That's a whole nother episode why everybody wants to move to Spain now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a whole different episode.
And please keep from tax perspective. If you guys don't have questions or there's something that they're not aware of, let us know, because there are taxes on property tax when you buy. You have some incentives when you have an alquiler or when you buy in certain ages. I mean, we're there to help. We're both there to help for anything needed.
Okay.
Amazing.
Of course.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And like I mentioned before, we'll leave all your contact details in the description below. And so that way our viewers can get a hold of you.
Thank you always for hosting us.
Yes.
Thank you for the great job you're doing. And I've heard a lot of echoes about your videos from Canadians who are contacting me.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Thank you. We appreciate
And
it.
that's why we do
very
this.
you guys, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.